Hey guys, my name is Dimitris and welcome to another n8n tutorial. Today, we're gonna build a Reddit scraper. This is a real automation I sold to a client for around 2000 US dollars. And to be fair, it wasn't in one-off sale. Initially, we started the project with a client for 1000 and then we did another project for 2000 and now he's going to be giving me 500 per month to maintain the automation and also to build some other stuff as well. So overall, the lifetime value of this customer is very high, and you can do the same if you sell a similar automation to this to your clients. So without any further ado, let's just jump right into it so I can explain exactly what I'm going to do. So as I said, this is going to be a Reddit scraper. Let me explain to you the use case very quickly. So the client is a real estate consultant, meaning his clients are real estate agents. He's looking for people that are in the real estate field and he's teaching them how to make more money. Think of it like a real estate agent mentorship program. And one of the ways that he's finding leads is through Reddit. He's searching Reddit for people that are either real estate agents or are interested in becoming real estate agents, and he's sending them a message. They talk a little bit on chat, and eventually he gets them on a sales call. We're not here to judge whether or not that's the best way to get clients or not, but even if it isn't, this guy's making money doing it, and all he wanted is a way to optimize his process. By the way, those are the clients that you should be chasing relentlessly. It's not worth it to sell automations to people that are not already doing a process. It's much easier to sell automating a process that's already working for the client because it's easier to explain to them what's the return on investment is going to be. Think of it like this, and then I promise I'm just going to move to the video. Think of it like this. If someone is not doing, let's say, cold email lead generation, if you sell them an automated system, the first thing they're going to ask you is, all right, how many leads am I going to get? And honestly, you cannot answer that. It's not your job to be a lead generation expert. Even if you are, this is not your job. You're marketing yourself as an automation expert, not as a lead generation expert. Again, maybe you should reconsider and frame yourself in a different way. But if you're framing yourself as an automation expert, you're gonna have a problem convincing people and businesses that are not doing automated lead generation. What happened to my voice? To businesses that are not doing automated lead generation to start doing it. On the other hand, if a business is already doing lead generation in a way manually, then all you have to do is ask them, all right, how much time do you spend on this? We're spending 20 times per week. Well, all right, now you're not going to spend 20 times per week. So the return on investment is so much clearer. But yeah, enough yapping, let's go to the automation. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna search Reddit, and we're gonna search, for example, for real estate agent, and we're gonna replicate the process that the client actually does. We're gonna going into posts, and we're going to identify whether or not the owner of the operator, the original poster, the OP of the post is a real estate agent, but also which one of the comments indicates that the person commenting is a real estate agent, because those are the people that he needs to find and he needs to send a message to. But okay, how are we going to do this from n8n? It's very simple, but first we're not starting from n8n, we are starting from Apify. If you don't know Apify is a platform for web scraping, as it says here on the title. This is not gonna be a full tutorial on Apify, but I'm gonna go through the basics just in case somebody that's watching it hasn't heard of Apify before. Very quick. So as it says here, Apify is a full stack platform for web scraping, meaning that there are a lot of scrapers that people have built, and if you pay, you can use them. Usually you pay per result, but some scrapers have a monthly subscription or maybe some platform usage cost. So that's the idea. If I click go to console, you will see that today we're gonna use this Reddit scraper that says, oh wait, no, that's not the one. Did I make a mistake? Oh yeah, that's the one I wanted to use. It's gonna be the all-in-one 1.8 US dollars for 1,000 leads. So for 1,000 results, we're gonna be paying 1.8 US dollars. That's relatively low if you consider that he's at least in the case of my client, he didn't want that many results. He wanted 1,000 results daily. So it wasn't a problem for him to pay what amounts to less than the cost of a coffee, less than half the cost of a coffee for those 1,000 leads. So yeah, how are we gonna use that? This scraper, every scraper on Apify, they have a set of input. They have a set of input options. So let's go very quickly through them. First, we have the scraping target, and we can either add a search query or we can add a Reddit URLs. So basically, we can either replicate the search exactly the way I did it. So we can, right now, we just search real estate agent. So the way that we would replicate this search would be by adding this search query here, or we can get a specific number of subreddits and add those to the search. So let's take r/realtors and r/real estate. Let's take these two. The reason that we're going to select this way, did I close the Apify tab by mistake? Let me reopen it. Okay. Okay, we're back. So here's how Reddit works. Reddit as a platform, if you search for something, it needs to give you results no matter what. So if I click SADF, oh wow, it actually found results. Huh. Anyway, it will give you results based on either relevance, whether it's top, new, comment count, or hot topic. But no matter what, you're gonna get a lot of results. And we don't want to get infinite results. We only want relevant results. The reason that we're not going to use the search is because with the search function, when we run out of results, we're going to start getting irrelevant results, which means that later in the automation, when we get all these irrelevant results to OpenAI, we're just going to waste OpenAI credits. And we don't want that. That's no bueno, no good. So instead, we're going to choose a number of subreddits. For the case of the client, he handpicked 15 different subreddits. For the purposes of the video, we're just gonna pick 2. So those subreddits are gonna be r/realtors and r/real estate. In those subreddits, we're gonna find the newest posts. So we're gonna find posts that are posted within the day. This automation is supposed to run daily, so every day we're gonna get all these posts, and then we're gonna run this post through AI to understand which one is relevant to us and which isn't. Those that are relevant to us, we will save them to a Notion database or a Google Sheet or wherever. Okay, so let's do that. Let's go to Reddit. Oh, actually no. Let's first go to Apify and let's set this up. So we said we're gonna use r/realtors. So let's add this here, and r/real estate. Let's do that. Also, bonus, if you go to run options and you limit to 10 results, you're only going to be charged for 10 results. So in this case, you're only going to be charged for $0.018, which is next to nothing. I recommend when you're testing stuff with Apify to use this maximum charge result options. So you know what you can do your testing and do everything that you need with your automation without running a high cost scraper again and again and again. Let's run this and see what results we get. Okay, the scraper is still running, but I realized I made a mistake, so I'm just gonna click abort. The mistake I made is that I only asked it to bring back posts. And that's not a good idea. So what we need to do is we need to go back to the scraper, go to the data extraction options and click the scrape comments option. I had that turned off. This way you can scrape the comments and you can choose to include or not include NSW content. Since we're here, let's also take a look around the other settings. On the time range, we're gonna select day in case this is not selected to you. You can filter based on when this was posted. we want to search only for posts that are that happened today, and we want to sort them by let's say, well, it doesn't matter, I guess, so let's sort it by top. I think it doesn't matter since we're going to process them all. The sorting doesn't matter. We're going to do any sorting that we want inside the n8n. And since we're scraping comments, you know what? Let's limit the number of comments per post to 50, just so to make the automation run faster. Remember, we're testing, and these settings are going to need to be changed between testing and production. When you're running the automation for production, you're going to need to change that anyway. But all right, let's go to run it again and wait for it to complete so we can review the results together. And we're back. I also noticed a very funny thing. The scraper found 4,000 results, and it only cost us $0.018. Well, I think I found a hack. So apparently the person that made this scraper, and look, I shit you not, I just discovered it. Apparently the person that made this scraper, he made a mistake. And even though he charges you per 1,000 results, if you put the maximum amount of results to 10, as we did, Apify platform will limit the amount you pay, but the person made a mistake and they don't stop the scraper for some reason when that maximum amount has been reached. And that results in the scraper running for 4,000 results and us only paying for 10 of them. Now, is that ethical? Well, maybe. Depends. I will quote Harold. Harold is a character from an old TV show from 2011 that I was watching when I was in high school. The show was called Person of Interest, and one of the two protagonists was a hacker. So he was doing, how was it? Oh, it was in a flashback, and it showed his origins, how he was, the first steps that he did as a hacker. And he said, while he was hacking on his first government agency, he said, somebody asked him if this is ethical or illegal or whatever, and he replied very calmly, well, if they don't want me to get in, they ought to build it better. In the same way, this is how I like to rationalize when I find these things. If this person building this scraper didn't want me to abuse it, he should have made it better. On the other hand, I do record right now a YouTube video that will be publicly available, so I guess in a way, if he wanted to know, he should have been a subscriber, right? But yeah, let's stop discussing about that and let's go to build the rest of the automation. So we have 4,000 results to work with. Let's go to Reddit, let's go to n8n, to our Reddit scraper YouTube automation, add the trigger manually, execution trigger, and then go to get our dataset from Apify. Now from Apify, we're gonna search for the get dataset items. We're gonna connect our Apify account, and where it says dataset ID, we're gonna go back to Apify, and then we're gonna click to API, and we're gonna take the ID from where it says get dataset items. We're gonna get the ID. I don't know if there is an easier way to get this. I guess I never bothered because this is the way I've always done it. Is there anywhere else that you can see the ID? I guess JSON? If you go to JSON, maybe? No. Interesting. Well, this is exactly how I do it. Maybe more details? Run ID, actor, no. Okay, API it is. You go to the API button, you click the API button, you go where it says get dataset items, and you get the ID of the dataset. The ID is always going to be the item that's next to the dataset. So it's going to be datasets / and then the ID. And we want the ID. Okay? Go back to n8n. add the ID here. Offset is how far from the beginning of the dataset you want to begin getting your items. So if I set the offset to 10, I'm going to begin from the 10th item. So in our case, we don't want it, but in case we wanted to process different batches of the dataset and then get the next batch and the next batch, we would need to set the offset. For the limit, we're going to keep it to 20 because we don't want to process too many items right now that we're doing this. The development of the first version of the scraper. When you're testing, you usually want to set the limit to something low so you don't waste time, you don't waste operations, and you don't waste credits in case the platform that you're working with has a credit limit. For example, if you're working on Make and not n8n, every time that you run an automation and you run through the items, you're wasting credits. So for testing, you wouldn't want to loop through hundreds or thousands of items. In n8n, we don't really care, but it's a good practice to do. And it's a good thing to get used to stuff like that where you're building automation. It's a good habit to have, kind of like checking over your shoulder before you turn. You make a turn with your car or motorcycle. It's kind of the same logic here. It's not always useful, but you should do it every time, regardless. Now we're going to click execute and we're going to pin the data. Again, we want to pin the data. So we want to save this for future executions. It doesn't matter in this time because getting the dataset from Apify is an HTTP request, but it is an HTTP request that completes very, very quickly. But again, pinning the data when you have to do with asynchronous sources and HTTP requests and other APIs and integrations, it's a good practice to pin the data in the execution flow so you don't have to rerun it every time when you're doing testing and the initial development. Later on, when we need new data every time, we're going to unpin it, but for now, we're going to keep it like this. Okay, so we're getting all the dataset items. Let's review exactly what we get. So we get some posts, some comments. However, if you take a look at the author, by the way, one of the reasons to watch this in a table mode, I either use JSON or table mode, but one of the reasons to watch it in table mode is because it's very easy to do operations like what I just did. So if you click on the author, you can collapse the rows to compare values of this column. So I collapse it and I can quickly compare the values here. And from the beginning, I can see that some values are duplicated. That's a good point, and actually I found already 2 mistakes with the automation, even though there is only a couple nodes. First of all, we don't want to keep the auto moderation or the auto moderator comments. We want to discard all of them. And that's because the auto moderator is not a user when each subreddit has the option to enable automatic moderation. And automatic moderation is posting an automated reply from a moderation bot who has the name of auto moderator. And obviously those are not real users and we don't want to waste time sending those to OpenAI to analyze if they're real users. So the first thing that we have to do is go back here and add a filter to filter out everything that comes from auto moderator. So we're gonna get the author, and when the author is equal to auto moderator, actually no, we're only gonna keep only values that are not equal. What did I do here? Control. Only values that, why my brain is not working? Okay, we're gonna keep only values that are not equal to auto moderator, and we're gonna name this discard auto moderator comments. And we're gonna execute that, and immediately you're gonna see that from the 20 results, we discarded 4. So everything that was from auto moderator was discarded. Now let's increase the page sizes here so we can see all results. There is a chance that some of them are going to be duplicated. In this specific dataset, they are not duplicated. Or at least I think, oh yeah, they are. For example, this one and this one are also duplicated. And the reason they are duplicated is that this person that made the post has also commented on his own posts. And for that reason, we don't want to keep duplicates. However, in this case, we would want to keep only the first one that's from the post. And to do that, before discarding all duplicates, we want to sort the items, and we want to add the posts first. So we're gonna sort based on the kind, and we want to keep not an ascending order, because with the ascending order, we're just gonna have the comments first. What happened here? Okay. So with the ascending order, we're gonna have the comments first, and we don't want that, we want the posts first, so we're gonna keep the descending order. And now we have all the posts first. And after that, we're also gonna name this to sort by kind. And then we want to remove duplicates. And we're gonna choose remove items replicated within current input. Where it says compare, we only want to compare selected fields. If we click all fields, it will only remove items that are exactly the same and all the fields are the same. This is never gonna happen. And what we want to do is we want to remove fields that have the same exact author. We don't want any of the other options, so let's just click execute. Okay, and now from 16 items, we only have 13. And as we can see, we kept the post of Amarilib 1981. That's exactly what we want, so it works correctly. Okay, quick recap. What we have so far. We are using Apify, we're scraping Reddit, we are getting all of the results. From all of the results, we are discarding the auto-moderator comments, and then we are removing all duplicate comments. So now we're ready for the next part. The next part is giving all that data to OpenAI and let OpenAI figure out which is gonna keep and which is gonna discard. Remember, we only want to keep those that are relevant to us. So let's go and do that, okay? So the next step is we're gonna click plus, and then we're gonna click AI, and we're gonna get a text classifier. You don't need to get a text classifier. You could do the same with an AI agent node. You could do the same with just messaging a model and getting a description. All of that is the same. However, nodes like the text classifier, they are more specialized in specific operations, and they give you easier ways to configure it. I'm gonna show you in a second exactly how it works. Now, I could just paste here and here everything that I have, but before I do that, but instead of doing that, I want to build with you the prompt so you can see how I'm doing this. I see when I started learning automations, and even recently, because I was researching other tutorials to figure out how people were constructing these guides so I can record my own. So while I was doing my research now, but also back in time when I was first teaching myself how to use these tools, I found that a lot of people, they just paste in the instructions, and I found that very weird because it's easy to just paste the instructions in, but in a real time, in a real world scenario, you're not gonna have the instructions ready. So you're gonna need to somehow build the prompt yourself. To be fair, it's not too hard to build the prompt, but I wanted to go through the process with you. So first, what we're gonna have to do, where it says text to classify, we're gonna add the body of the post. We're not gonna need the title or the username. If you want, you can give more information to the classifier. In my opinion, it's best to just give the body and nothing else. Also, one more thing, if this is empty, then the classifier is gonna fail. So maybe at some point around here, we need to add a check to verify that this is not empty. but we're gonna cross that bridge when we get there. If we get an error, we will fix it then. I'm just saying, now that I see it, maybe this is an improvement that maybe you guys should make. Actually, scratch that. Let's just do the improvement now. So how can we do this? Inside here, before we go to the text classifier, we're gonna add another filter. We're gonna name it remove empty body. And when the body exists, and also when the body is not empty, only then we're gonna proceed. So in cases where the body is empty, we're not gonna go. The body is empty in cases where the post is just a picture. So you know how people just post memes or GIFs or YouTube videos on Reddit? On all platforms, but specifically on Reddit, they are allowed to post just a single image or a single GIF or a single video. And in those cases, if you scrape a post or a comment that's just that, it's not gonna have a body. And that means that the text classifier is not gonna have anything to classify. So we're gonna have this remove empty body node. And we're gonna run it, and we can see that all 13 items passed through, which means that all 13 items have a body, which is great. Now for categories. We need to add a few categories. First of all, let's think about it. We need to figure out who is a real estate agent. So real estate agent. So the first category is agent. The other category is, let's say, not agent. And let's see the options. When no clear match, output on extra other brands. So the classifier will, for everybody, it will either put in a category that's a real estate agent or not an agent, or we are not sure. So whatever we are not sure, it's gonna go on another brand. It's either gonna be real estate agent or not an agent at all, okay? Before we run it, I want to explain a little bit of what happened here. When you do that to the classifier, and that's the reason that's such a useful node, the actual node parses the output of OpenAI or whatever model you choose, and gives you 3 different execution routes, those routes right here, and you can connect them and continue your execution however you please. But we will get to that later. First, let's choose a model, and for us, we're just gonna go with an OpenAI chat model, and we're gonna keep GPT-4.1 mini for testing, and if we run into issues, we're gonna use another model. So let's rename this to GPT-4.1 mini, and we have our model. Okay, and now let's, the only thing left is to build the description for the classifier. I like to use ChatGPT to build those descriptions, so let's try and do that. Okay. Let's instruct ChatGPT on what to do. I'm building a scraper for LinkedIn. Whoops, force of habit. I'm building a scraper for Reddit. I want to give to OpenAI all the scraped results and have it classify them into 2 categories. One category will be real estate agents, and the other will be no agent. If you're not sure where to classify them, put them in a 3rd other category. I need descriptions for each category, so I can paste them into the system message to get the correct results. And let's see what it comes up with. Okay, so that's a good one. I forgot to do something. Please paste them in Markdown so I can copy them directly. If I copy this format, it's not gonna be very useful. So I like to. It didn't do anything. What what the fuck, ChatGPT? You didn't give me the results in Markdown. Okay, let's see now. Okay, so I got other results that seem better. Okay, let's see what we have. So on the first result, posts that are clearly from real estate professionals. You know what? I think I prefer the right response, so let's go with that. Definition: post offer or explicitly about real estate professionals. The author identifies as a real estate agent. The post discussed listings, showings, the conversion tools, CRMs, marketing. Okay. Post with no connection to real estate agent or the professional. And the topic is unrelated to real estate. It is advertising, personal updates, or job post. It references interests or roles other than real estate sales. You know what? Those seem good enough. For the record, if those don't work, we're gonna come back to this ChatGPT conversation, and we're gonna refine the prompt a little bit better. But for now, we're gonna get just this part, and we're gonna add it inside here. Note that if you have it on fixed, it doesn't allow new lines. So we're gonna go on expression, and we're gonna paste it. This way, it allows new lines, and we can see the output clearly. It's the same for OpenAI. However, if we put it on fixed, if we click that, we can see it. All I meant is that we cannot see it directly on multiple lines. Unless, can I enlarge it somehow? No, I can't. On expression, however, you can just see it right here, and you don't need to expand the window to make it work. Either way, it works fine. I just prefer to have it on expression. And for the not agent category, we're gonna copy and paste the other part. I'm gonna add that in expression too, and then we're done. Also, maybe we need some priority rules, and those priority rules, you can add them to a system message. So as you can see, there is a template for the system message, and in this template, we're gonna add these tiebreaker rules. So let's do that. Okay. Whoa, what happened here? Oh, I copied more text than I should have. Let me delete that. And we should be good to go. Let's execute the step and see what we end up with. Okay, so apparently 6 items are real estate agents, 3 are not an agent at all, and 4 are at other. Let's do a little bit of review before we, and we're not gonna optimize this in this video. We're not gonna optimize it to the maximum that we can. This is sort of post-automation building process. We are gonna focus on building the automation and have it run from end to end. And when the last part of the automation is to optimize the ChatGPT prompt, we're gonna do that at the end. And you can do it after the video, and you can do it whenever. By the way, optimizing the prompt is one of the reasons that you should charge a monthly retainer for support on your client. They don't want, and they don't have the expertise to optimize those prompts themselves, and you have, or you will have once you get better. So this is a very valuable thing to explain to them when you're trying to upsell them to a retainer. Anyway, let's go back to what it did. So this comment says, where do you live? Okay, this is not an agent. Are there any sport games going on in your area right now? Currently college, noon football is on roughly 2 hours. Okay, so this one is not an agent as well. This book's helped me exactly. Phil Jones, never played. Okay, this shouldn't be an agent as well. Let's see who is an agent. Shout out to all my fellow agents. See, that's an agent. I would never ever invest time sitting in open house, blah, blah, blah. So this is probably an agent as well. Did you have any traction before? I have never seen point posting. For me, I'll host an open house. This person says he will host an open house. So probably he's an agent. I would say that from those results, it does a pretty good job. Let's just take a quick look at the other brands. This person says, can anyone recommend some courses to get better training at sales? I know there's a ton of stuff on YouTube, but curious you found something great really up the person or online. Okay, this could probably be here. And the reason it's not is because he mentions sales, but he didn't mention real estate agent sales. So that's a great example of what we should optimizing for. In a real world scenario, we would need to get this post. It doesn't matter now. We can continue running it. Okay, so what's the next part for this automation? Again, we are scraping Apify, we are sorting and manipulating the input as we need. We are getting everything through AI. So the next step is to get everything passed into Notion. So what we're gonna do next is we're gonna create a Notion database. So here I am in Notion and I built a new database. Let's think about the structure for a second. We're gonna need a title, which is going to be the primary field. And then we are going to need a status. So let's delete this property. We're gonna need a status. And for the status, we're gonna have new. When something here is new, we don't need an in progress. How do I delete it? Delete. There we go. We don't need anything that's in progress, but we need a complete and we need a wrong result. And we're going to name done to send message. So the way that we're going to use it is, for example, let's say that the automation has 2 posts here. The person that's using the automation, my client, will go into Notion and will see all the new posts that we have. And he's either going to send a message, and in which case he's just going to set the status as sent a message, or he's going to decide that, hey, maybe this is not good for us, so we're going to click he's going to click a wrong result. Wrong result is very, very useful because later when we extend the automation, and this is actually one of the plans that I have for this client, and when I do it for them, I'm going to post the results here on the channel as well. So when something is wrong, he's going to mark it as wrong. So the next time that we train the automation, we're going to figure out a way to make it learn from itself, or at least this is the plan. Anyway, we need a status. We need the body of the message. So we're going to name this body. What else? You know what? Let's add the author. And let's also add the URL. Do that, URL. Do we need anything else? I doubt it. Do we? Well, if we need, we're gonna post it. We're gonna post it later. For now, we're just gonna delete those. And we're gonna go and connect everything to n8n. Oh, before we do that, we have to go to Notion/profile/integration in case you're new to Notion. I almost forgot that. We need to select our integration, and then we need to go to access, edit access, and give access to our new page. Reddit, Scraper, YouTube. So this is how it should work. And then we're gonna click save. And that way, n8n has also access to this new database that we have. Going back to n8n, we are going to go to Notion and we're going to create a page. Inside, we're gonna create a database page and we're gonna select the database from this list. If we hadn't done this integration permission step just now, we wouldn't see the Reddit scraper YouTube database that we just created. Okay, so we're adding a new page on Reddit. For the title, we're gonna use the title. Should we? If it's a post, we should use the title, but if it's a comment, we shouldn't use the title. So we're gonna do this. We're gonna delete that. If this is equal to post, we're gonna get the title. Otherwise, we're gonna get the author as a title, and that should work. Otherwise, the title is going to be empty to simple comments, or at least I think so. Let's review the results a little bit. Okay, so the title for comments is undefined. So you see, it's undefined, and we don't want a database page to have an undefined title. So in this case, if it's a post, we're going to get the title. Otherwise, we're just going to get the author, and that will work. Now for properties, we're also going to add the author. We are also going to add the body, and the status is going to be new. And finally, we're going to add the URL, but for some reason it's still loading, so I'm just going to give it some time. Okay, we have it. URL. Let's connect them one by one. For the author, we're going to add the author. For body, we're going to add the body. Quick tip here. If I remember correctly, Notion has a limit to the characters. So let's quickly search it. Notion character limit for text fields. So let's see. So yeah, Notion text fields have a 2000 character limit per block for API requests. Okay, that's cool. So here's what I'm afraid of. If a body is over 2000 characters, it's gonna be a problem. Let's go to Reddit. Reddit character limit for comments. Okay, so the official Reddit comment character limit is 10,000 characters. So there are a lot of cases that the 2000 character limit for Notion might be exceeded, which means we need to limit it programmatically. There is no ideal way to handle this, because if we compress the text and we make it less than 1,000 characters, than 2,000 characters, we cannot give it to AI. So we cannot compress it. That means the only way to do this is... Oh no, now that I think about it, no, it's not the problem. The problem is only when saving the body to Notion, and we don't need to save everything. So instead, we're just gonna limit it. So we're just gonna limit that part here, which surprisingly is very, very easy to do. This is the body, and we need to check its length. Okay, so if the length is less than 9,999 characters. I don't like to play with limits, so I don't want to make this. One character won't make the difference, and I don't want to be right at the limit of the API. It's an old habit I have. I've all the corner cases are on the limit, so we don't want to play around with that. So I'm not going to use 2000, which is the limit. I'm just going to do one less. So if the length is less, you can pass the body. Otherwise, you can slice it. So you can take the body, and then you can use slice, and you can keep the first 2000 characters. Oops, the first 1998 characters. Okay, so in this case, is this correct? I think it's correct. If the length is within limits, we're gonna keep the body as is. Otherwise, we're just gonna make it smaller. Okay, that will work. And finally, we will get the URL. And we're gonna ignore if it is empty. The reason that we're gonna do that is that a lot of APIs, if they have a field like URL, email, any field, phone, any field that requires some sort of input validation, if we send an empty string, it's gonna throw an error. So it's best to just click ignore if empty, and that way we save ourselves the trouble of validating the data ourselves. And then we're gonna click execute and see if everything is added to Notion correctly. And yeah, that's perfect. And that's a very useful piece of automation, because now we can, the person that's using this automation, he can come in here, he can click the URL, and immediately he's gonna go to the comment and he's gonna just message the author immediately. So that's super, super useful. And if I message this person, I'm gonna click send message, but if for some reason I don't like this, I'm just going to click wrong result. Okay. So that's very useful. Maybe one last thing, and I'm gonna leave it here, because right now we're finished. I just have a couple thoughts about running this automation on a larger scale, and maybe implement one more part on this flow. So you cannot see it here, but you will see it in a minute when I run this from end to end. OpenAI has rate limits, so you cannot throw an infinite amount of Reddit posts and get a reply all the time. There is a rate limit. Imagine if how many millions of people are using OpenAI. Imagine if all of them have no limit to the request that they could send. OpenAI servers would just melt. They would explode. They would cease to exist the next day. So there is a limit. I'm going to prove it to you by running this automation for more than 20 items. So actually, no, wait. First, let's run it end to end to make sure that everything works correctly. And they do. Okay, everything ran correctly. But what happens if we try to run the automation for 50 items? What happened here? I'm a little bit confused. Oh, that was my bad. I forgot to unpin the data, so it didn't run those 50 items. It just got the 20 times from the 20 items from before. So I'm just gonna execute again and see what happens now. So what should happen is we should get a rate limit. We still didn't get a rate limit, and that's because we still didn't process a lot of items. We only processed 28 items. You know what? Let's just go crazy and go with 200 items and see what happens. I'm gonna stop the workflow and I'm gonna execute it again. Actually, never mind. I just ran the full automation for all items and I didn't get an error for 370 of them. So I think it's safe to assume that we're not getting an error. When I was running it from the client, I did get an error, but that's because on the version that we did for the client, we were mostly processing posts, not comments. So maybe that's why, because the way rate limit works on OpenAI, the limit is not how many times you call the API, the limit is how many characters you're sending. So not exactly characters, but how much tokens you're sending to the API. So if we're just sending posts all the time, the posts are just this huge blocks of text, but most comments are very, very small. So when you're running the automation for comments, they're actually less demanding for the OpenAI API. So maybe that's the reason that we're not getting any errors. In any case, if you were getting an error, you would have to split this request into batches. So we might as well do it now because you might need it for the future. I cannot make it break right now, which is ironic, but we might as well do it so you know how to do it in the future. All we would have to do is click this loop over items. So we're going to split it in batches. And let's say that each batch size needs to process, let's say 500 of the items. Okay, so what this is going to do is it's going to get all those 1,809 items, and it's just going to split them to batches of 500. Let's delete the replace me. Let's delete everything and reconstruct it. So every time, instead of processing all the items together, we're just going to process 500 items, and we're going to add them all into Notion. And after we add everything into Notion, we're going to have to wait. So after adding everything to Notion, we would have to wait for 1 minute, just to give a cooldown to the OpenAI to refresh the rates. The rate limits on OpenAI, if I remember correctly, are for each minute. So if you give it a minute to cool down, then you should be fine. However, the way that we built it right now, there is a problem. Think about it. After we run the classifier, we're going to upload, let's say we're going to upload 100 records into Notion. If we keep it like this, then we're going to wait 100 times. So instead of 1 minute, we're going to wait 100 minutes. That's not really what we want. Instead, we want to use the merge node. This is going to be a little bit more complicated, which is one of the main reasons that I wanted to give it to you. So what the merge node does, let's make the number of inputs 3. What the merge node does, it waits for all the branches to complete their processing. So it waits for everything to complete the processing and merges all the results back into one. But again, if we run it right now, we're gonna end up with 100 results here. And that's because we just clicked append, and we don't need to click append. Instead, we need to click choose branch, and for output, we need to output a single empty item. For output time, the only option is wait for all inputs to arrive, and for output, a single empty item. So what this merge is going to do is it's going to wait for all Notion uploads to be completed. It's going to wait for other branches as well. So if in the future you want to add more operations, for example, maybe you would want to save the non-agent results to something else, or you might want to log them somewhere to figure out the results, or you might want to do other operations. In any case, once everything is completed, only then is going to move forward and wait. So this is how you would do it if you needed to loop over the items. Okay, the automation just finished and I realized I made a mistake. So after this ends, you should get the other end and connect it back to the loop. I forgot to do that, so it only ran once. But if you do that, it's gonna run the rest of the times as well. We already processed the first 500 items. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna put offset 500. So we skip the first 500 items. And then I'm going to execute the workflow again. And this is it. The automation is ready. If you like the automation, you can find it in the description of the video. I will export it. I will upload it on Google Drive, and then you can just download it. Also, if you want, we have, if you liked what we said about building this automation, but also what I said about landing a client, giving them value, managing them, and delivering them something of value. If you like all of that, we actually have a school community that we deal with all of that. We are calling it First AI Client, and it's the straightest path to land your first AI and automation client. We teach you how to get your first client, how to deliver your project to them. I can actually help you deliver your first project. We also teach you how to build your Upwork profile and also 2 other underground lead generation methods. It's pretty cool. The community is free right now. The reason that it's free for 80 days is because we're still shooting the content. The community is brand new. We just have it 1 week. So if you're in right now, you stay in forever. It's sort of a value exchange between us and the first members. We didn't want to charge people if the course is not ready, but we also didn't want to just build a community in silence. It felt weird. You cannot build a community alone. You need community. So we thought of this. For the first members that they join, they will help us by giving us feedback about the first videos that we upload, about how we run the community, and in exchange, they get to stay in for free forever. So if you're watching this video, just join the community. It's free, and worst case scenario, you get inside, you watch the videos for free, and if you don't like it, you bounce. But best case scenario, you like it, you get to know us, you get a lot of value, you close your first client, and when we make this a paid community, you're still gonna stay for free. And that's the real value. So that's it. Like, subscribe, everything that all the other people say, drop a comment down below, and I will see you in the next one.